Hi, welcome to Recent Library Reads number 6. Today I have all of the same kinds of books. I actually did get more than these last time I went to the library, most of which are in this series, and then there was one other that was different. But after reading so many of these, I got kind of tired of them and wanted to take a little break. So I will still read the other ones, but you'll just see that in the next Recent Library Reads video. So I got a bunch more books in the Who Was series. If you've watched some of my Recent Library Reads videos before, you know that I really like these books. They're short, fun, illustrated biographies about people, although some of these are about other things like places or companies. So they do have a few others. They may have some that are about certain events, not just specific individuals. I really like these because they're easy to read. They're at like a 3rd grade level, and I enjoy learning. But a lot of these topics and people I wouldn't necessarily want to read a really long biography about. But if I'm reading a book that'll take me like a day, or some books I start one day and then finish the next, then I'm able to learn a lot of information while not having it take up a whole lot of my time. So I got a lot of these. And I know that in a lot of my Recent Library Reads videos, I read a lot of smaller or children's books. And they won't always be like that. Those are just what I've been checking out from the library recently because there are a lot of them there that I'm interested in, and so I just want to read those. But in the future, I will have some older, more adult books as well. So anyway, I'm just going to go through these books and tell you what I thought of them. So first, we have What is Nintendo by Gina Shaw. This was the first one I read. This was pretty interesting. I think all the ones I've talked about on my channel were all about people, so this being about a specific company was a little different. I do feel like more could have been in this book, but all these books are about 100 pages, maybe a little more, so of course they can't have everything in there, but I did find this one pretty interesting. Nintendo has been a pretty big part of my life since I was like 4, and I enjoy a lot of their games, especially Mario, who's on the cover. So I enjoyed this book and learning a little more about them. This book, as well as some of the others in the stack, have some actual photographs in them, so that's pretty cool. So yeah, this is just about the history of the Nintendo company, how it started, what they started out making, who the founders were over the years, and some of their most popular franchises, as well as their biggest successes and some of their biggest failures, and some things about how they fixed those. It was also just kind of a quick biography about the video game industry in general, since Nintendo was such a big part of it and many people say saved it. So yeah, this was pretty interesting. Next, we have the first biography of a person, and this, according to the cover, is the 100th title in the series. That's pretty interesting. This was Who Was Steve Irwin by Dina Anastasio. So this one was pretty interesting as well. This one was pretty much just about Steve Irwin's childhood and family, and how his family also loved wildlife and caring for animals. And it's about how he liked it as well. But I also learned a lot about animals in this book, especially a lot of Australian wildlife. Next is What is Lego by Jim O'Connor. Now, I knew more about Nintendo than I did Lego. I like Lego a little bit. I do think it's pretty cool, and I mean, I have known about it since I was a little kid. So this one had a lot more information I did not know. This one is about the start of the company, and they didn't originally make Lego bricks. They made other kinds of toys, like wooden toys, and it was about like the founder of the company, his family, and who owned it later on. It also had a lot of interesting information about how Lego bricks are made and the process of getting people to work for the company. It also talks about some of Lego's other ventures, like into video games, movies, and theme parks. So yeah, this had a lot of interesting facts and information about Lego. So this one was pretty fun. Usually these books are pretty interesting. I mean, because they're so short and written for kids in mind, they may as well be pretty interesting. The next is one about a place, and that is Where is Walt Disney World? This one was written by Joan Holub. This one was pretty interesting. You might think, well, you're saying that for all of them. Well, if I do think that they're all interesting, that's good, but there was one book in this stack that I did not enjoy as much, and I'll get to that, but I still enjoyed them all and enjoyed learning from them. So this one is about the history of Walt Disney World, specifically Walt Disney World, not Disneyland. I mean, it does talk about it, but Disney World came after, and it's about Walt Disney's vision for it and how he and his brother worked on it, and how even after Walt Disney passed away, his brother knew that he had really wanted it, so he kept working on it. And it's about some of the different attractions in the park and some of the history about it and some interesting information about it, like how the tunnel system works. So this one was pretty cool. The next one is one that may have just been the most interesting of all of these, and that is Who Was Louis Braille by Margaret Frith. I did not know very much about Louis Braille prior to reading his biography. Some of these books, like, I already knew about these people at least a little bit. I mean, I think I learned new things in all of them, but yeah, I don't know if I even knew that Braille was named after a person. Maybe I knew that, but if I did know that, I didn't know anything beyond that. I don't think I knew where he was from or anything about him. So this is a biography about the man who invented the Braille system that the blind still use today, although he lived in the 1800s. He was from France and went blind from an incident as a child, so he was not born blind, but he was blind for most of his life. And this book was really interesting, learning about the life he had and the attitude he seemed to have, still being very determined to do things, and he still seemed very smart even with that handicap. And it was interesting learning about the school he went to that was specifically for blind people, and how he eventually became a teacher at that school, and how he designed a system that was easier for blind people to use. There were systems before for blind people, but they were not as easy to use. So this one was really interesting. Next I read Who Was Dr. Seuss by Janet B. Pascal. And I remember seeing this book in elementary school. Did I read it in elementary school? I don't remember if I did, but I know this is one of the older books. So I found this one pretty interesting as well. I had some Dr. Seuss books as a child, and I checked out some from the library last year. Like I checked out the Lorax and Horton Hears a Who because I wasn't sure if I'd ever actually read those. And after reading this, there are a couple more of his books that I do want to check out from the library. So in some of my upcoming recent library reads videos, you may see some of his books, one of which I don't think I'd ever heard of before. But yeah, this was interesting. I enjoy when these books go into someone's struggles, especially if they're like a creative person, and it goes into how they felt about certain things instead of just relaying the facts. So yeah, this one was quite fascinating. Then I read another about an author. A lot of these are about authors, and that was Who Was Beatrix Potter. This one was written by Sarah Fabini. This one was pretty interesting as well. Last year I actually did check out The Tale of Peter Rabbit from the library. I think that was the first book in the series. I know she wrote a bunch of them. That's the only one I've read, but I did enjoy it and thought it was cute. And so I found her life particularly interesting, especially learning about her family and how they were back then, how they didn't approve of things that are normal today. And I enjoyed learning about how much she loves animals. There are actually some animals on the cover if you look closely. There's a cute little rabbit there. And I just thought it was interesting learning about her personal life and the things she went through and the stories that she wrote. And she also did the illustrations for them as well, which was really cool. So yeah, this one was pretty enjoyable too. Now the next one I read, I didn't enjoy as much as the others, but I did still learn some things from it, especially some things about history, and I certainly do not regret reading it. It just wasn't the most interesting. And that was Who Was Laura Ingalls Wilder. This one is by Patricia Brennan DeMuth. Laura Ingalls Wilder, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing her last name correctly, so do correct me if I'm wrong, but she wrote the Little House on the Prairie book series, and that series is extremely autobiographical. This book is mostly about her childhood, living in the pioneer days and traveling from one place to another and how they survived and did things back then. And then not until over halfway through does it get into her adult life and when she actually started writing, because I believe she didn't start writing until she was in her 60s. So this one was educational and informative, as all these books are, and I learned some more about history, which is nice. These books always do that. You're not just learning about one person in their life, you're also learning about other things going on in their lives. Like some of these books, not this one, but some of them I may learn about, like World War I or World War II, depending on which time period it was. Sometimes the books will go over both, or the Great Depression. This one had a lot to do with the pioneer days, as she was a child in the 1860s and 1870s. So I did think it was kind of interesting at the end how it all tied together and how she wrote based on her own life experiences, because the author of this book would mention how she wrote a certain book about a certain time in her life, and I would be like, oh yeah, I read about that. This one I just did not find as interesting. A lot of it is just, it could just be the way it's written, I don't know, but just a lot of it is just them moving back and forth and every little detail of what they ate and what they did, which is educational, and I don't want to sound like I don't appreciate it or whatever. I just, yeah, this one just wasn't as interesting to me, but I did still learn some things from it. I have not read the Little House on the Prairie books. Let me know if you think I should. I thought about it after reading this, but I'm just not sure if I would enjoy them. Then the last one I read was another author, who was J.R.R. Tolkien, who I have not read anything from either, but I still found this one pretty interesting. I learned about his life, his stories, his experience in the 2 world wars, as well as his interest in other languages. So yeah, this one was pretty nice. So yeah, for this episode, I've just got a bunch of these books. I learned a lot from them, but as I said, I was kind of tired of them after a little while. So I have a few left, but I'll read those a little later, and you should hear about them soon enough. But I just read a lot of these and kind of wanted a break from them and some books that are more long form. I do generally read like longer, more mature novels, and you're going to hear about those too. But yeah, these were some of the books I recently read from the library, and it was nice to learn more about these people. Thank you for watching.